Hare Krishna, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Bhaktin Leah, Bhakta George, Bhaktin King. Nice to have you all with us here, and in person we're here with Bhakta Keith Prabhu, Srila Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Six Goswamis, Lord Narasimhadev, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Gorakishoras Das Babaji, Jagannath Das Babaji, and of course Bhakti Vinod Thakur, who composed this last song that we chanted with Bhakta George. Thank you so much for this vibration. And
Kashipu is with us too.
Kashipu and Prahlad Maharaj, whose pastimes we're going to be celebrating in about 2 weeks from now. But in the meantime, we continuing to dive into the heart of Kunti Devi, a beautiful, pure devotee of Lord Krishna in the parental affection. In the first canto, 8th chapter, verse 34, I think. Let me check. Where's my bookmark? Yeah, 34. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Bharavantara Vanhaya Ye Bhovanvaivo Dado Shidanti Buri Bharina Jatoi Atma Bhuvantara. Others say that the world, being overburdened like a boat at sea, is much aggrieved, and that Brahma, who is your son, prayed for you, so you have appeared to diminish the trouble. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Brahma, or the first living being born just after the creation, is the direct son of Narayan. Narayan is Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, first of all entered into the material universe. Without spiritual content, matter cannot create. This principle was followed from the very beginning of the creation. The Supreme Spirit entered the universe, and the first living being, Brahma, was born on a lotus flower grown out of the transcendental abdomen of Vishnu. Vishnu is therefore known as Padma-pa. Brahma is known as Atma-pa, because he was begotten directly from the father without any contact of Mother Lakshmiji. Lakshmiji was present near Narayan, engaged in the service of the Lord, and still without contact with Lakshmiji, Narayan begot Brahma. That is the omnipotency of the Lord. One who foolishly considers Narayan like other living beings should take a lesson from this. Narayan is not ordinary living being. He is the personality of God himself, and he has all potencies of all the senses in all parts of his transcendental body. An ordinary living being begets children by sexual intercourse, and he has no other means to beget children other than one designed for him. But Narayan, being omnipotent, is not bound to any condition of energy. He is completely and independent to do anything and everything by his various potencies, very easily and perfectly. Very easily and perfectly. Brahma is therefore directly the son of the father and was not put into the womb of a mother. Therefore, he is known as Atma-bhu. This Brahma is in charge of further creation of the universe, secondary reflected by the potency of the omnipotent. Within the halo of the universe, there is a transcendental planet known as Shvetadvip, which is the abode of the Kshirodakashaya Vishnu. the Paramatma future of the Supreme Lord. Whenever there is a trouble in the universe, that cannot be solved by the administrative demigods. They approach Brahmaji for solution, and if it is not to be solved even by Brahmaji, then Brahmaji consults and prays to the Shirodakasha Vishnu for an incarnation and solution to the problems. Such a problem arose when Kamsa and others were ruling over the earth, and the earth became too much overburdened by the misdeeds of the Asuras. Brahmaji, along with other demigods, prayed at the shore of the Shirodaka ocean, and they were advised of the descendant of Krishna as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. So some people say that the Lord appeared because of the prayers of Brahma. Om Agyantarinandasyam Gyanashala Shalakaya Chakshuramenita Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We were born in the darkness of ignorance, and our spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, kindly opened our darkened eyes towards Vedic knowledge. So I'll just stop here for a second. We can continue afterwards. Just wanted to reflect on this continuum point that Prabhupada was reflecting in the previous verses too, in this battle between impersonalism and personalism, and how nicely science is connected to that. How demoniac science, how disastrous science is without the personal feature of, without personalism, without God. And how beautiful science is with the personal feature of God. And it's all exemplified here. The science of creation, it sounds like kind of like wild, right? The creative force, the creative being, he was begotten by a man, and he was creating from a lotus flower, and kind of like illustrative and wild. But comparing now to something that is called a Big Bang, and that bang came from nothing, from nowhere, what is more wild, to be vague or to be concrete in descriptive and descriptive and depictive ways how to really explain what is going on? Okay, it might be wild, it might be inconceivable, but it's very concrete. It's very concrete, it's very relatable, and everyone can grasp how the universe was created. It's not like something, how are you going to explain to someone that, okay, there was a big explosion and that's how we came here? It's not real science. It's a science of vagueness. How to be completely vague about everything. And because of that vagueness, it leaves so much room to people to be misled and people to mislead others. And this is, like, for me, that's kind of one of the things that I fear in impersonalism, that when impersonalism infiltrates, first of all, my heart, I can see very clearly how easy it's for me to start to manipulate people or take advantage of people or all the bad qualities that actually they sprout from that. I reflected in Switzerland how in Hebrew, I don't know how much that is in English, when you say to someone, "Oh, you impersonal," but in Hebrew it's a derogatory term. Like if you say someone he is you impersonal, they can take a big offense for that.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, because it leaves a lot of room for exploitation.
You mean the people that believe that they have a soul and other people that don't?
Oh, like in general, in terms of linguistics, in Hebrew, it's like a bad word. It's a bad connotation. Or you're so impersonal, or whatever. I mean, in English too, it kind of sounds like that. But in Hebrew, I have a lot of personal experience. If you tell someone, you're not personal or whatever, it's like it's not a good quality to have.
Yeah.
And I can see really why in how Prabhupada reflects on this verse and many others. It's, you know, starting from the creation, like yesterday we celebrated, or the planet celebrated. I didn't really celebrate it. I was planning to make like a skit, a video about it, but I didn't. But
what was it?
Earth Day.
Oh,
Earth Day.
Oh, that was yesterday.
And to be aware of such things, it's very good, of course, but without having the relationship to who created the earth, to who belongs to earth, who belongs to nature, to who is giving us, whose nature is that? It's another way of exploiting Mother Earth, right? If we just concerned with you know, let's say a particular, in that instance, Mother Earth, the woman, the energy. If we're concerned with that particular woman, but maybe she has a husband and the husband is worried about her, that she's going late at night somewhere or something like that, right? Our worry, in a sense, it can really misguide us in our care for that woman, let's say, or that force, energetic force. So there's always, Prabhupada always puts this contrast, brings us back to, okay, Krishna is always there. Krishna is always in charge. Krishna is always the source of creation. And for me, it takes away so much of this burden of now I have to, you know, control my senses, or not to exploit, or not to be lusty, or not to be, you know, the agitation subsides so much because I'm just aware, okay, I'm not actually I'm not just the doer, but I'm not it doesn't belong to me, right? And if you see directly the person who it belongs to, like let's say someone dropped $100 and you see that the person saw that he dropped $100, you're not going to even look at the $100. You're going to be embarrassed. At least myself, I will be embarrassed to look at these $100 because I know, okay, it belongs already to someone. Okay, utmost, okay, I'll pick it up and give it to him, whatever. But it's so connected to like all this materialistic trip that I feel I'm going through a lot, like guilt and shame, possessiveness, attachment, samutena, and yeah, just connecting to this personal future of God, how God is present. It's very liberating for me. Yeah, that's kind of what's going on for me.
Very much, Andrea. Yes. Hare Krishna. I just wanted to share something in regards to your sharing of the Big Bang Theory when you started. There's a quote by a British psychologist and author, Sheldrake is his name, and he says in regards to the Big Bang, he says, it's as if science said, give me one free miracle and I'll easily explain everything else.
Yeah, well, that's how science works. They have the axiomatic truth.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? We have the axiomatic truth of God, and they have the axiomatic truth of, you know, so many other things. There's no difference, but we can experience God. For us, it's axiomatic, but for some time, depends on our sincerity. If someone is sincere, immediately God can reveal himself.
I appreciated that principle as far as addressing the Big Bang Theory.
Thank you for the quote. It's really connected to the topic. Bhaktin King, you raised your hand, I can see. You wanted to share something?
Well, I have a question. I had heard, and I could be so confused, but I had heard one time in a Vedic talk that the Big Bang actually goes along very nicely with the idea that when God first created the universe, or I don't know, not first isn't the right word, but when he does, it comes out from him, and then it goes back into him. And the talk said that is very much the description of how the Big Bang works, and that the correlation was real. Had you ever heard anything like that?
Well, I think in the third canto, somewhere there's another stage of creation which is depicted how Brahma infuses all the creative elements together, and there's like fire and electricity and light, and from that comes shape and perception, and it sounds kind of maybe like an explosion, or but there's no in the scientific, like in the seemingly scientific approach, they're missing this aspect that, okay, there is, Prabhupada even many times he accepts, yes, there was a Big Bang or whatever, but from where, who put the dynamite there? Or if there is an explosion here, if let's say, Dhira Govinda's ashram is goes, and explodes or whatever, immediately insurance company gonna ask, what happened and how did it come about, right? And
yeah, we could, if we look at the description of creation, the very scientific description of creation in the Vedas and the Bhagavatam, in one sense we could simplify it and say, there was a Big Bang, and it was started by the Supreme Person, by the Supreme Consciousness. Yes. So so that we could give that parallel. If we look at the Big Bang, and of course now they different things, singularity. Yeah, like back in decades ago, the idea is like a singularity, and like it started. We can see that they're really looking for Krishna, because if they say, okay, this original seed of the Big Bang, this original singularity, what they're saying is it's smaller than the smallest subatomic particle, and it's greater. It's powerful enough to expand the whole universe. It's beyond time. If we look at all the qualities, they're looking for God. They're looking for Krishna. They of course just don't want to use that word. But if we look at it's beyond time. It's greater than the greatest. It's smaller than the smallest, and on and on. And so they just want to take consciousness out of it, so that they get to be the Supreme Consciousness. And of course, by taking consciousness out of it, then the whole theory, and we could say, yes, there's validity to the Big Bang, but with the Supreme Consciousness originating it. And then of course, if you take consciousness out of it, then the whole theory goes against the scientific principle of entropy, that without conscious input, a material system goes to greater and greater disorder. So how does that explain that an explosion led to Shakespeare's sonnets, or led to the rotation, the precise rotation of the planets, right? I mean, like, if the sun goes off, whatever, a fraction of a percent, then we all burn in fire, or we all freeze under ice within moments, right? So there's such regulation and organization. If the Atlantic Ocean is a fraction of a percent, then cities crash in the wave, right? So, okay, how did this explosion, right? If we explode a bomb over a city, does the city become more organized, more structured? No, not at all. So the whole idea of Big Bang without consciousness behind it contradicts the physical principle of entropy.
What we experience practically contradicts it.
Yeah.
If I understand correctly, dear Govinda Prabhu, basically what you're saying is that we're not conflicting on the Big Bang or the explosion, but we're conflicting on the source or the origin.
Right.
It's not, they say it's not, there is no conscious origin.
Right.
And we said there must be, because that's what we perceive here.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you,
Right.
Prabhu. I hope it reflects on your question, Kim.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, there's also, I can find it and perhaps send you later. There's like a whole portion in the Bhagavatam, second or third, I think in the beginning of the third canto, how Lord Brahma, he manifests all the material, like he meditates, right? And then like Prabhupada explains here that the secondary, where is it? In charge, the Atma Bhu, this Brahma is in charge of the further creation in the universe, secondary reflected by the potency of the omnipotence. Like Krishna infuses him with the creative potency, and then he goes and creates into detail. And that the description is very, it's kind of like explosive in a sense, like fire and light and like sound and like all these wild things. So I can perhaps attach it in mail form after, if you like.
Sure, that would be nice. Thank you.
Did we finish the verse? Yeah, I think we did. Would anyone else like to share something about this particular verse, or we can read the next one? I was a bit confused too about the halo of the universe. Within the halo of the universe, there is a transcendental. What is like
Halo?
halo?
Like an angel
Light?
has a halo. You know, that classic depiction. The angel has the halo around their head.
Or Beyonce has the song Halo.
Yeah, which is a reference to angels and this light around their head.
A disc, a circle of light shown surrendering. So, like, where I'm trying to depict it in my mind, like in the halo of the universe, there is a transcendental planet. Where is that place in the universe?
Pole star. Right?
Polar star?
Yeah, it's the top of the universe, and everything is suspended.
With Dhruva Maharaj.
Yeah, everything is suspended from it like a chandelier.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting.
I would read, but not the Sanskrit. Can you read the Sanskrit and then I'll read the English?
Together, yeah. Bhavishmin kaliya mananam avidya kama karma bhi Shravana smarana rani kairashai dikshena.
And yet others say that you appeared to rejuvenate the devotional service of hearing, remembering, worshiping, and so on, in order that the conditioned souls suffering from material pangs might take advantage and gain liberation. In the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Lord asserts that he appears in every millennium just to reestablish the way of religion. The way of religion is made by the Supreme Lord. No one can manufacture a new path of religion, as it is a fashion for certain ambitious persons. As it is the fashion for certain ambitious persons. The factual way of religion is to accept the Lord as the supreme authority and thus render service unto him in spontaneous love. A living being cannot help but render service because he is constitutionally made for that purpose. The only function of the living being is to render service to the Lord. The Lord is great, and the living beings are subordinate to him. Therefore, the duty of the living being is to serve him only. Unfortunately, the illusioned living being, out of misunderstanding only, become servants of the senses by material desire. This desire is called avidya, or nescience, and out of such desire, the living being makes different plans for material enjoyment centered about a perverted sex life. He therefore becomes entangled in the chain of birth and death by transmigrating into different bodies on different planets under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Unless, therefore, one is beyond the boundary of this nescience, one cannot get free from the threefold miseries of material life. That is the law of nature. The Lord, however, out of his causeless mercy, because he is more merciful to the suffering living beings than they can expect, appears before them and renovates the principles of devotional service comprised of hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshiping, praying, cooperating, and surrendering unto him. Adoption of all the above mentioned items, or any of them, can help a conditioned soul get out of the entangle of nescience, and thus become liberated from all material suffering created by the living being, illusioned by the external energy. This particular type of mercy is bestowed upon the living being by the Lord in the form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Hey, good morning, Rebecca. Hare Krishna.
Good morning. Hi, Krishna.
So yeah, I highlighted this portion out of misunderstanding only. Well, I'll read the whole line. Unfortunately, the illusion living beings, out of misunderstanding, only become servants of the senses by material desire. I remember starting reading the Bhagavad Gita, which Prabhupada mentions in the beginning of the purport. One of the first things that triggered me is how much emphasis is there on service? what is going on here? Who I have to serve? And because I was escaping service, coming to spiritual life in a sense. You serve I serve in the material world, and I get nothing, or even worse, I get something and I don't know what to do with that, like money. I do drugs, or I do run after women, or I buy cars, and then again you have to serve. So that's really a traumatic experience for me in the material world. But Prabhupada is reflecting on that. Service is not the problem. The problem is our misunderstanding, because everything we do actually with the service in the material world, everything I was doing with the service in the material world was aggravating my material senses, my material desires that would just become bigger and bigger. And of course, it's anything that it grows artificially, it reaches a saturation point very fast, and then I have to just completely it completely may be distasteful for some time. For some time. So yeah, service is not a problem. It's my own attitude. That's kind of what comes for me. Plans for enjoyment centered around perverted sex life. One becomes entangled in a chain of birth and death. Yeah, again, it's there's no problem with the sex life, it's the perverted sex life. There are couples in the spiritual world, but Prabhupada expresses many times that they're not agitated by sex impulse, for example. They don't they don't go into forgetfulness because they enjoy one another's presence. For them, even enjoying one another's presence is enjoying Krishna's presence, actually, because they serve Krishna in their household, in their occupation, in the spiritual world. Yes?
Joy.
Just what happens for you, Prabhu's Mataji, when you hear about this service? We have to serve.
I really appreciate the idea of how you phrased it, where you get money and then what do you do with it? I'm really inspired by the way you phrased that, because it's true. You have some food and then and
You
then
have glitched a little bit. Sorry, Prabhu.
yeah, you obtain some food in order to keep the body and soul together, but then it's like all the other. If you get a lot more money than that, it's so distracting or anxiety provoking. You buy a nice car and then you're always worried in the parking lot, is someone gonna hit a car or something on the car. It becomes such a burden, rather than yeah.
You experience how it entangles your fur with
Yeah.
service.
Yeah, it's very distracting in that sense. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's like, what do we do with this idea of money? I mean, I know Lakshmi is a demigoddess and has her role in service of Krishna, but so much emphasis, at least here in the United States, is I'm sure everywhere, but specifically I've experienced here, it's money is the most important thing. And I really appreciated how you kind of threw some shade on that idea, where like, what do you do with it? Like once you have it, it's like it's a burden, or it gets in so many ways of doing our service. I find it can be such a distracting obstacle in the way. I'm going to focus on that idea of like, what do you do with it, and how much of it do I really want? What would be helpful to my process. Yeah, because I'm seeing my neighbors moving out, and it's like they're carrying all these things in and out, and I'm looking at my own apartment, and I'm like, man, there's so much burden because of this thing called money. Like, I like Dhira Govinda's living room. It's nice, nice and easy.
With the more important things, the devotees.
Yeah. Yeah, on the altar and Prabhupada there. It's just beautiful, So, yeah, I appreciate so much like the lack of distraction from service that comes with having so much money.
Yeah, there is this like a movement. I'm subscribed to this one channel on YouTube about minimalism, and they speak about the minimalism, but there's also a point where too less is not actually going to make us happy. We need something, we need to feel content with ourselves, right? So, but what is that self? No one speaks about it. What is that pure service? No one speaks about it. What is the pure engagement with the material world? No one speaks about it. And yeah, I like how you expressed like your position in the material world is to have Krishna there in the form of Lakshmi, or in the form of, because right, when we say Lakshmi, actually it's not something negative. It's like the connotation of money will be, I would say, like Durga, which is the harsh, strong, fearsome energy of Krishna that chastises me, chastises us. If we keep, as soon as we separate Lakshmi from Krishna, she's not Lakshmi anymore. She becomes Durga. So then, like, I think that's what you were saying. Then the money just becomes a burden. We don't know what to do with that.
I also think, like, in my personal service too, it's like I almost want, I don't know how I can create this service in my life where I can just be joyful in my service. And a lot of the struggle in my personal service has been because of how the health business works here. The whole system is geared towards making money for a select few, including the healthcare system. And so I had such struggle in rendering my service, because people would need something, but then the insurance would say no, and then I have to be the guy who's like, I could help the person, but then I'm not making like anything for doing the whole system of money, how it's created. It's in a way that has inhibited my service. So I'm applying for work right now, and Danielle found one job that made a certain amount and then another one that made half the amount. And for the first time in my life, I was like, well, go for both. And, you know, if I got the one with half amount, but I'm in a position where, you know, I can render service to Krishna joyfully without so much disturbance from Durga, then maybe half the money is the best position, you know. But maybe I'm also attached to my service being undisturbed. So it's yeah, like I love when people say
conflict.
yeah, like I like the idea of joyful in service, and I'm wondering what that looks like for me in relation to like just showing up to work, seeing somebody that needs help, knowing what to give them, doing the work, and just saying Hare Krishna rather than just all the struggles with, you know, how to make it happen for them. That's not related to my service, not related to like the what you know, trade I do. It's related more to all these money related things that are so so
Yeah.
distracting
That's
and
the
yeah, like
you're in the conflict there. Conflict of spiritual and material interests in your life.
it's like how do I create that environment where I can serve and just offer it to Krishna and be in integrity as I do this work without outside pressures. So yeah, I feel like money so much, at least healthcare in the United States, in my experience, is that service of being a healer in whatever aspect is very much compromised, I think, by the worship of money, and in all strata of society, leading all the way up to the top. It's a very
The
much
honey.
huh?
The honey. Like they say, right? So
Yeah. Anyway.
life too is affected by that. By this creation of this currency. I mean, it's an energy, it's Krishna's energy, but you and so many others, I too, I experience how, yeah, my what is important for me in life now, it's misleading how much importance I put on this currency, which is just energy, which is Krishna's energy. But how the society is structured, that's what I hear from you, that you experience how the society is structured around this currency. It creates such an imbalance between us willing to serve each other from a pure consciousness.
Yeah, it's like what is the aim? And if we set our intention on service, I feel like money is just one of those obstacles that get in the way. And we always, you know, in Satvatovian way and so forth, we always say don't focus on the obstacles, because that's how you get entangled. That's how we get stuck. The idea is to manifest it with clear intention. What I want, this is the kind of service that I want to create in my life, and then just letting Krishna, you know, do the work. And I was just sharing with Leah yesterday in one of our groups. It's like have clear intention about what I want to do, and then looking at all the obstacles that get in the way. There's a quote that says, "Let go and let God." You know, just focus on that clear intention for service, for the kind of service I want to have. Yeah,
I like that. Let go and let God. Maybe we'll title the episodes like this.
Let go of my God.
Let go and let God.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for this beautiful sharing, George. I was really moved by how you approach this obstacle in your life now. Hare Krishna. I can sense some sharing energy, but I don't know from where. Okay, Rebecca.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yeah, what's coming up for me is that I was just talking about something like this with Patrick last night, and maybe, I don't know, I came into this into the conversation a little late, but it seems that, if we are blessed with financial abundance, that we have the opportunity to use it in service to Krishna, whatever that may look like for each of us. And so it can be a burden, or it can be an exciting adventure in saying, well, how can we use this to support the mission of Prabhupada and Krishna consciousness? Like, George, if you get that really high-paying job, then maybe you can build or start a temple somewhere, a Prabhupada temple. So yeah, just thinking about that. And then also, I don't know, maybe I have more questions than comments about Varnasrama, because I was just thinking about that and how, like, in the ancient system, someone who practiced, I don't know, like, my understanding is someone who practiced medicine, or, was a scholar of medicine, of the ancient, I guess of ancient medicine, really, of Ayurvedic medicine, would be in the Brahmin class. And so they would, in that system, they would typically be supported by the Sudra and the Kshatriya class. They would be, or even all the other classes would be supporting them by giving them money or food, money, so that they could do their service. And it's funny how in this paradigm, like how the paradigm that we live in is so, like, there's nothing about it that's Varnasrama. It's like, like people who are,
mess.
What's that?
Prabhupada calls it a joint mess. You have joints, and somehow they put together.
The joint mess? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And so how to, wow, it seems like a mess. So how to untangle from that mess? And yeah, I don't know the answer to that. It's just a question I have. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that highlight. The how entangled we are as a society. I mean, what is more difficult now, to disentangle or just create something completely new? Yeah, the brahmanas, they will be the head, and from my understanding, there would not be really any money, but the currency will be service. Everyone will serve each other. All the classes, all the members of society, they would support the brahmanas, which would be, they will be like the head of the body. The head is the most vital, important part of the body. The head and the heart, of course, too, but they're interrelated. And seemingly the head is not doing anything. The head is just, sitting there on the shoulders, taking all the weight. And the shoulders take all the weight of the head, and then we need the neck, so because the head cannot even turn anywhere. But it does all the important tasks. The thinking, even the heart, right? We take our emotions and we look at them introspectively and try to digest them properly and flood the world with love through the deep introspection of the intelligence and application of what we experience. And yeah, the rest of the body makes sure that the head is not disturbed. I think Prabhupada even, he says the most painful situation in life is, what is it, stomach ache and headache or something like that, or toothache, which is toothache, I guess, is like a form of a headache because it's on the head. So yeah, it's definitely something to take care of. Yeah.
Did you say that that in Varnashram it's that it's not, there isn't exchange of money, it's exchange of services?
Service, and they have like currency. They would have gold currency for certain trades, but mostly like even taxes. Like we hear from the Krishna book, when Nanda Maharaj goes to pay taxes, they pay taxes in grains to the politicians. And from my understanding, the politicians in between themselves to trade commodities, they would have gold currency. So they would exchange the gold. And gold, because it's not something that, can have an inflation, no one would like cheat each other by, I'm going to print more gold. And you have less printed gold. So you're going to do more service for me. It's always service, ultimately. Yeah, it's like, I think, yeah, I can kind of stand behind it and say, yeah, it's always service, because even the gold exchange or money means, right, I give you money for this amount of time, but who now decides that your time worth more than mine, really, right? It's not. Our time is priceless because it's Krishna. Krishna says, Mirtyu Sarva, no, what is it? I am time, something like that. It says somewhere in the Bhagavad Gita. So yeah, Vedic culture based on Varnashram, Daivi Varnashram, on this transcendental Varnashram, is based on, yeah, this, that everyone is given time on this, in this universe to serve, to purify their existence by serving God. So who am I to usurp others' time for my benefit, for my family, society, nation, country, whatever society? No, the time should be utilized for Krishna. So everyone feels very much obliged when he utilizes someone's service. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I feel curious if there are any devotee communities in the world who are endeavoring to model their community off of the more like I mean, I know there are many devotee communities, but I wonder if any of those communities is like really specifically like going for it,
Because maybe you're curious to see how it works and you would like to apply it in our community here.
Mm-hmm.
That would be something nice to research. In my travels, I did not encounter, but yeah, it's certainly it's worth a try, because I mean, where are we really heading with the material commodities and material exchanges? It's just, yeah. It's better to try for something so substantial and pure and fail even, rather than remain in this material uncertainty.
Yeah, well, I know that I've been thinking about this a lot because of where we are and where it seems where we could be headed. And so I've been thinking about that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I heard some rumors that someone wants to start here, something like that. But yeah.
There's energy around it. Yeah, there's energy around that.
So yeah, I'll be very happy to assist from my propensity or my way of serving in that, and support you all. So
thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
There are different communities that started around the world. Like I know I stayed for a few months with one sannyasi. He's devoted his life to it. He started like 7 under himself, and he's quite
7 communities like that.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, with different levels of development. Some of them are like full on like self-sufficient and just ready to go. And he's quite strict with, he doesn't want to have anything to do with modern society. So it's like his mood. But then there's some other ones, Varnasrama in north of Mumbai. They got a nice eco village there that I went to, and they're making endeavors for self-sufficiency, but they're really trying to, like this Prabhupada said, like a blend of modern and traditional ways. And I think for now, like they do have their own farming and their own water purification and school and temple, and it's like a really wonderful community. But mostly they're not really focusing only on being self-sufficient. They're doing it as a way, like a presentation to the business class people, the rich people, and from Mumbai. So they have like retreats and stuff like that, and seminars for business people, and also they have schools come in and stuff like that. And then there's another one, I can't remember where it's at. It's another one, Shivaram Swami. I think he oversees it, and I guess that's supposed to be Hungary. There's a place in Hungary, and that's supposed to be also quite an amazing place. Like same like this Govardhan Eco Village with Varnasrama, and this one in Hungary with Shivaram Swami. They actually have made some endeavor to implement some things like similar to what Satvatove is doing with like mentorship and coaching and communication and relationships and devotee care. So they're actually pretty powerful communities because they see the value in focusing on that. So, and there's other groups that, like there's Vrinda. I don't know anything about them, so I don't even want to say, because I don't know how in line they're supposed to be some sort of branch of Vaishnavism. I don't know how in line they are with Prabhupada or anything, but I heard that there's different, like in South America, like hundreds of different projects coming up. But like I said, I never studied into them. I don't know how in line with it and that they are with Prabhupada, but there's different, definitely different places. There's another one in Australia, which is supposed to be quite developed. They got yoga and all that stuff. And and who is it? Bharat was thinking about, well, he's moving in that direction, and Yogeshwara, I heard they were considering mixing up with him and getting something started with that. So,
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'd be interested to know the name again of the community abroad that has some Satvatove or some, focuses on coaching and relationships. I'd be interested to hear the name of that. What is the name that you said that was?
There's one in Govardhan Eco Village. That's with Rajnath Swami, and this one, Govardhan Eco Village.
And that's the one that uses relationship principles and skills and
devotee care system and counseling and all that stuff. So they teach all these things, and I never really delved into exactly how they're presenting it, but I had one brahmachari there kind of like coaching me a bit, and they're doing the empathetic listening and all that stuff. And like even in the temple, they're looking after everything for everybody. Like this is in the middle of Mumbai, so it's like kind of a not your average North American would want to live there. I mean, the temple community or the village is different, but like they're establishing stuff. Like they have their own banking system. They have their own daycare systems. Just everything that they're literally making a society, And then this other one in Hungary. So Govardhan Eco Village and this one in Hungary. Yeah. I can send it to you, and then also Bharat. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you also send me the one up for Hungary, Prabhu Keith? I would be very interested in the one in Hungary.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's supposed to be quite an amazing. I saw some videos there, and it's supposed to be quite an amazing place. They're associated with ISKCON, but if you're looking for something more directly connected with Satvatove, then Bharat would be the person to contact. But I could send you guys those things on email.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else would like to share something about this verse, or we can read another one, or just kind of summarize the experience, whatever you feel like, Prabhu's.
Oh yeah, and also I would say that too, if you want, when you check them out, if you were seriously considering something like that, that you could ask, talk to Dhira Govinda about it and ask him and see if he feels like the leaders of those communities are people that you would think are responsible in their connection with Prabhupada, you know. So that would be the other thing that I would suggest. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ramachandra, I just want to point this out just because it seems so simple. I know we talk about it all the time, but in the last paragraph of that purport about, I don't know if I've ever heard this word renovates the principles. Is that used very often? It says, he's more merciful to suffering living beings than they can expect, appears before them and renovates the principles of devotional service. Renovate.
I remember something like that. You said last paragraph?
The first sentence of the last paragraph.
Oh yeah, he's more merciful to the suffering living beings than they can expect, appears before them and renovates the principles of devotional service comprised of hearing, chanting. Yeah, it's this verse, Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya, Glanir Bharati Bharata. I was actually thinking about George when we read that, because George gave a beautiful class about that on Easter.
So when he's saying renovates, like he sent or Chaitanya came to renovate, because he just like cleared the deck and go, okay, here's some simplistic approaches and you can just pick one of them, like to simplify it all down to something we could handle. Is that basically, I mean, I know we talk about that a lot, but I guess I've never seen it in the word of like renovation. I don't know why that strikes me as unusual, but I just want to.
Yeah, you find it interesting why Prabhupada chooses to use that word suddenly.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard it like that before. Maybe I just heard it, but of course there's a lot I haven't heard. But so I think the part about like listening to Kim read and then getting to the part where, you know, it kind of reduces down to, well, just, it's so simple, just pick one. Like that, I know it feels like relief for me. I'm sure it does for everyone. Like, and still I struggle. Anyway.
I kind of think like why, of course, I mean, I have a very limited capacity to jump into Prabhupada's mind and ascertain why he used that word, but in terms of the context, like the renovation, because that's like one of the duties of like the Acharya or the spiritual master that connects us to Krishna, the Diksha Guru. One of the one of the things that makes him connect us to Krishna is that he renovates. In a sense, he brings something completely controversial in the way we approach Krishna. Either that's, Prabhupada, for example, he minimized the amount of rounds that his predecessor, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he gave 64 rounds. And if we read Nectar of Instruction, which we're going to read after we finish the Nectar of Devotion, invite you all for these sessions in the evening. In the Nectar of Instruction, Prabhupada references that how Bhaktisiddhanta considered anyone who chants less than 64 rounds an animal. Including, like, Prabhupada was not, I think, was he chanting? I think, no, I'll have to check. I don't want to paraphrase, like speculate, but I'm not sure if like it was for grihastas also 64 rounds, or it was only for like temple devotees. But it stated there in the Nectar of Instruction, Bhaktisiddhanta considered anyone who would not chant 64 rounds an animal. He's not utilizing his human form of life. And Prabhupada, he renovated, let's say, that principle. He introduced 16 rounds. Okay, you cannot. He was actually from the memories we consider how Prabhupada he asked them actually chant 64 rounds, and devotees they could not. And then he said, okay, chant 32 rounds, and they could not. And then he said, okay, 16 rounds, and I'm not going under 16 rounds. You do at least 16 rounds. It's like, it takes just like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Come on, you can do that. And the devotees did that, and he did minimize. And yeah, like many other controversial things, like giving not just like, okay, second initiation is like super controversial. For like to give a Brahminical initiation to a devotee in a woman's body, it was very, very controversial in India. But even like the first initiation, like the Vedic system, in like the classical Vedic system, devotee in a woman's body, she would just, follow the husband, and if the husband initiated, she is automatically initiated. There will be no like really like a samskara needed for that, because the man and wife and husband, they will be so united around Krishna. Or arranging marriage ceremonies, Prabhupada too, he completely renovated that principle that he would, as a renounced person, someone in the renounced order of life, he started performing marriage ceremonies. And yeah, that's like one of the things that makes, like, make Prabhupada, right? Prabhupada means the one who in all master's seats by his feet, is that he brings this not just like an update, but I like how Bhakti Leah, Mother Leah, she highlighted that word. I didn't notice that in the beginning, but yeah, it's like, wow, that's what Prabhupada does. He renovates the principles of devotional service. How we hear, how we chant, how we remember. Like Prabhupada, I spoke with Hansadutta Prabhu, and he was sharing how after certain concepts Prabhupada will convey to us, the whole world, the whole paradigm of their experience of the material world will change. Like, I think we mentioned a few sessions ago about how God appears as, how we can see the creative force or the creativity of Krishna in how the birds are designed. And someone from the Sangha, he expressed that, like, wow, and now I see the birds differently, or Prabhupada speaks, like all his analogies are sort of not analogies, actually, not metaphorical at all, because they're so concrete in Prabhupada's way of giving us this experience of transformation of matter into spirit with our eyes, with our ears, and it's a renovation. I like that, Leah. Thanks.
I think like there's a couple of stories about people asking about trees, and then I can see how that would change your perception of material. I guess maybe it's just the word renovation that I don't think I've heard, but when I think of renovation, I think of like a makeover. Like, it's, you break it down and you update it. And so are you saying that, the rounds and the different structure of Krishna consciousness was updated in a sense that he made it attainable for the people he was the devotees that he was meeting when he got here, and he had to make it approachable for them. So he renovated what he originally was practicing in India so that it was attainable for us, for them, and for us. Is that
For us, in all the Kali Yugis, like Prabhupada position is like, we yet actually, I think, to experience really who is Prabhupada. You know, like if we think about it, like Jesus Christ, how many years it took the Christians to realize who Jesus Christ is? Like at least 400 years, right? And just now, actually, like people like take to some practice or whatever after 2,000 years. So Prabhupada, we like 70 years in Prabhupada's presence, really. And yeah, Prabhupada, he was sent by Krishna specifically to go to cross the ocean and bring Krishna consciousness back to all the hemisphere, to all the Western hemisphere, to all the people outside of the Vedic paradigm. Like he was sent, his astrological birth chart said that he's going to cross the ocean in the age of 70. His Guru Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta, said, you go and you do it. And yeah, it's like that's like his mission, and that's his like all his life is like a renovation of our internal, external values, like how we experience the world. It's, yeah.
So would you say that Chaitanya renovated for his time period 500 years ago? Like he was a renovator because of what? I mean, is this and so now Prabhupada knows we couldn't have adapted to the strength practice of India, so he kind of shrinked it down attainable, and so it's like working with what we've got, because it's otherwise it's nothing. Otherwise we have nothing. Yeah.
There's a whole conversation that Prabhupada reflects on this specific point, like what is his, if I understand correctly, you ask like what is kind of the dynamic between Prabhupada's renovation and Lord Chaitanya's renovation, because Lord Chaitanya too, he like started the first civil revolutions, the first like outreach outside of the Vedic culture to the like untouchables or whatever. And Prabhupada too, he did something similar. And maybe that's what you asking something like that, like what is the dynamic? Yeah, there's a conversation like that. I'll try to find it now. If I'm not going to find, I'm going to send it to you by mail. But it's really, really beautiful. One of Prabhupada's, I'm just going to paraphrase it. Perhaps it's going to take me a long time to find it. But one of Prabhupada's godbrothers, he actually criticizes Prabhupada. And he says, there was it's a walk on Juhu Beach in Bombay. And one of the devotees of Prabhupada, he went to associate with his godbrothers for some internal affair. And the godbrother, he criticized Prabhupada that why Prabhupada, who put him in charge of now making all the Westerners Vaishnavas. And Prabhupada, he got so humorously angry and like just, he just pinched him right there. And he said, well, Lord Chaitanya left it for me to do that duty. He left it for me because he loves his devotee more than he loves himself. Just like Krishna, he sent Arjuna to work it out with the Kurus. He could have done it himself. He could have done it, but he wanted his devotee to be more glorious than him.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so there's a beautiful conversation like that. I'm gonna share it with all of you.
Thank you for answering our question.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I asked dear Govinda about if there were any temples or communities that were practicing Prabhupada-centered Krishna consciousness that had formal temples outside of ISKCON. And he said to me that there were ISKCON Bangalore, which he illuminated that Patrick had actually went with him. I think they taught a Satvatove course there, and they had some pastimes. And that there was a community, and I can't remember if it was, I think it was New Zealand or Australia. And he said there were a few around. So my question is, those are the two that he mentioned to me. Are these communities that we were just speaking about prior to the discussion with Leah, Prabhupada-centered communities, and do they have formal temples, or is this more of a Namhat if they are Prabhupada-centered? That's my question.
I'm like I'm not familiar with them. I haven't visited and I didn't research that much, so maybe I'm not the best figure to ask that. But I think, yeah, I don't know how to say it. Sorry.
The one with Varnasrama is undoubtedly Prabhupada centered. The other one with Shivaram Swami in Hungary, my impression is that he's quite a potent, elevated person. I haven't had a huge amount of contact with him. My impression of the community is it's quite spiritually enlivened, and it would be like temples and Prabhupada centered. But that's why there was another, like this other Swami who established these other 7 communities. Why I didn't suggest his is because he's a very amazing person and wonderful, but I don't think that he my impression is that he doesn't really value that much the devotee care aspect, like these things with the communications and all. Maybe he does to some extent, I don't know, but I never really got that strong impression from him. So that's why I never recommended any of his. So, but then towards the end, like I was saying, if you're interested in it, that you contact Dhira Govinda and see what he has to say about it. My impression is that they're good, a good place. But Dhira Govinda obviously knows better than me. Yeah.
Oh, Hare Krishna. No, I'm just very interested because I know that we won't be staying in Alachua long term. So, and it is very interesting to me how temples are organized and maintained. Even like a home temple, Namhat, like being able to see everyone here in Alachua is an amazing experience. But to go somewhere where they've actually installed deities and they are practicing full worship, that very much fascinates me. So I just was wondering if you knew if they were Prabhupada centered and if they had installed deities or they had a formal temple. So yeah.
This one in Hungary, I saw this wonderful kirtan they had there. They had the camera set up in the temple and these lights, and it was like really wow, like the feeling, like the temple is very beautiful and it is like a really amazing community in the countryside with rolling hills and grass, and they grow their own food and like I said, the feeling in this kirtan there is like really amazing. So it's a full-on temple centered community. Yeah.
Very interesting. I look forward to finding out more information. Thank you so much for illuminating me.
Yeah.
Danielle, I think there's a place in Pennsylvania that maybe you've heard of. Malini talk about it, Gita Nagari, and I don't know how Prabhupada centered they are, but I do know that they are endeavoring to live the principles of, they're doing cow protection on a big scale. And then also they have a really like lovely temple. It's very modest, and they have, I think they have Radha Krishna installed there, though I'm not, and they have a really beautiful, big, like life-size Prabhupada murti in their small temple. So that could be it, and it looks beautiful, and they're really doing some really, I'm very attracted to that particular devotee village. So I would, if you guys are checking places like that out for your research of, where to move to, then I would recommend checking that out too. And they're actually going to start building custom homes for people, between 1 and 3 bedroom log cabins. And I think they're going to build up to 55 of them, and it's on 350 acres. So it's a very inspiring community that they have, and they're expanding it. So it sounds like maybe if you feel inspired to check that one out, that could be a good one to look into.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Yeah, I'm interested in finding out more about how the temple installments happen and how the deities are worshipped and what the standards are for that and different environments, but not so much interested in building a community or living in a community or the Varn ashram system being applied in modern day terms. Though, I mean, maybe eventually, but that initially is not my interest. It's more so about how are we, because I want to go and see the deities and I don't feel particularly comfortable going to Alachua and seeing them. So where can we, I mean, I know we have them in our homes, which is beautiful and wonderful, but I like, what is the blueprint for building another temple? Like, I know that we're supposed to be building temples all over the world. That's what Prabhupada wants. So what's the template? Who's doing it? Who's building the handbook for making new temples? You know, like, let's figure out how to get this done. So I don't know.
I like Danielle. Every town and village must be a temple.
Yeah, and I love the Namhat. I love having the small deities. I think that they're beautiful and personal. But to have a large scale communal installation and like the high standard of worship, I think that is super special. That's super special.
Yeah, like she was saying, Gita Nagari is also a nice place to check out too. I know I've never thought of that, but Bhakti Tirtha Swami, he spent a lot of time there, and there's a lot of his disciples, and he's a very wonderful, very special connection, close connection with Prabhupada, and and very open-minded, dynamic, beautiful, like saintly person of the highest caliber, you know. So yeah, that's definitely another nice place to check out. Yeah.
You guys have websites or something that you could send? I would really welcome them. If not, that's okay. I'll still replay this and try to look them up on my own. But any research that you guys have already conducted and you have to send over, we'd appreciate. Thank you so much.
Yeah, when I came here, I think for the foundational, after I took the foundational, I spoke with someone sharing not someone, with Bria. I spoke with her and I shared with her that I, like, everywhere I go, I want to start a temple. And she just said, well, why don't you start a temple here? You know, people will be into that, like a Satvatove Bhakti Yoga ashram. And I think she's like sort of in the process of finding something like where it can actually be feasible to arrange. So yeah, she's a core member of your community, and she's a very determined, I think, in her whatever she takes up any service. So it's a nice figure that I think can help you all in that.
Yeah, I would appreciate how much research Brielle conducts. I think that is wonderful. I don't know what everyone else in the community is doing, but I specifically do know that she conducts a lot of research in her practice and her spiritual life, and that's something that I also endeavor to do. So I appreciate it when people want to follow Prabhupada within the guidelines that he's established and expand on them in a way that is serving us in our day-to-day practice, and doing things that maybe he didn't leave such specific details like a blueprint for, even though there might have been a precedent for it, like different samskaras and different different processes, like, you know, creating a deity installation and things like that, where we know he did them, but to have a blueprint for it and be able to implement it with his expert guidance and to his level of excellence and satisfaction. I like that Brielle does research, and I also, you know, hope other people are doing it. But maybe if we could, I know that Bhakti Skills is one of the things that we work on as a group. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's a way to maybe archive or house some of the, you know, external documentation gathering that we're doing, or some of the as we go and visit other places, you know, like maybe we wouldn't have a question about what it was like in Hungary if someone who went to Hungary could tell us, you know, with like a criteria or a rubric. But I think as we continue to grow in our lives and in our spiritual association, and we start to move around the world, we can continue to grow our network of understanding. I mean, I see this as a very serious, I mean, just watching George go through his orthodontic residency program at a postdoctoral level, I want to apply that same level of rigorousness in our lives to researching and implementing Bhakti Yoga from a Prabhupada-centered standpoint. And so it will be a lifelong process. And I hope others will be doing the same. Yeah, I appreciate it a lot.
You want to give your full time, if not full time, but as much time you would give to like a full-time job to make you and your community happy, which makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, it's the purpose of life. Hare Krishna. At least it feels good to me. It feels like a good service.
Yeah. I know Brielle and others, they looking into that, and yeah, as I said, I'll be glad to. I'll be very honored to assist you all in that and see how I can play a role in that, in setting up like a full-fledged like ashram with festivals and like devotional courses, and which is already going on. It's just like to give it a more like unified structure, maybe, or physical structure. I think Sandra is to working with her about that. So
yeah, there's no mistakes. I mean, there's 9 of us that are getting initiated this year in the Satvatove Bhakti Yoga, trained, I don't know, like vein to call it. And you're here, and Dr. Keith's here, and there's so much energy around the Satvatove training in the Bhakti Yoga process that it's not a mistake. Prabhupada gives us everything that we need to be successful, and it feels super energized to me. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything by not going to the ISKCON temples or ISKCON association, because we are kind of in the fledgling state of creating our own community. My opinion.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Danielle. That's exactly the way I have felt for some time now. And I really have a deep sense and knowing that this is a very unique and special group of people, and we're not. We are and we're not. We are, but we are, and I think that we're meant to serve Prabhupada together in some way. And I don't know I'm not sure exactly what that way is, but I know that I could say for myself, I too have a lot of energy towards this vision. And so of this Satvatove Bhakti community, and I have for some years now, and I know I'm not the first person to have it either who's come through, but it is kind of feeling very timely right now with what's happening in the world, with the group of people that are together right now. It is feeling like this is the time. And so I appreciate you saying that.
I would say that we already have a Satvatove Bhakti Yoga community, and maybe we don't live together, or maybe we'll never live together. And maybe we're not supposed to, some of us, live together because we'll be going out through the world and doing different missions for Prabhupada. But yet we are still one community, and we'll be drawing strength from each other. We're a global community now. So I'm excited about it.
Yes, absolutely. The community is already here. And so we don't really have to do anything else than what we're doing. It's not necessary. And there is energy towards to create something more. And so that's all.
Hare Krishna. Hi, Rebbeca.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo. It's a real nectar to hear these exchanges, especially how concrete you are, Mataji's, and like in your intention. It's really, really inspiring. So we can keep the next verse for the next session. I think that's gonna be Monday morning. Yeah, Monday morning. Tomorrow, either Dhira, Govinda, or Malini, they're gonna lead, and then Sunday, Dhira, Govinda. And Monday, we're gonna be back with diving into the heart of Queen Kunti. And the next verse is super, super potent. All these verses, they're really potent, but this verse is like, it really touches me every time I recite it or remember that, because the concept of conveying Krishna consciousness to others, the bliss of conveying to Krishna consciousness is there. And just to give you a little teaser, I thought to read the Sanskrit and the translation. Shrivanti Gayanti Granti Abhidaksha Smaranti Nandanti Tevatam Janaha Ta Eva Pashyanti Acharanat Vakam Bhava Pravabo Pramam Padamam Bhujam. O Krishna, those who continuously hear, chant, and repeat your transcendental activities, or take pleasure in others doing so. That's kind of like what stands out for me every time I remember this. Certainly see your lotus feet, which can alone stop repetition of birth and death. So yeah, but that's the journey we're going to go into on Monday morning, and I invite you all to come and dive with me and Bhakti Keith and whoever going to join us deep into the beautiful heart of Queen Kunti Devi. Jai. Shrimati Kunti Devi ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Nitai Gora Premanande. Hari Hari.
Hari Hari Bo.